if you are checking into this because of the title, then I probably have to clarify things. I couldn't get the title exactly what I mean, but let me rectify that. What I'm trying to say is that I believe that Baki, Grappler Baki, or Baki the Grappler, whatever one you want to call it, is a far better representation and a far more um, ideal martial art anime and manga than relatively anything that's kind of out. It is a lot more appreciative of the martial arts world and the mythos, as well as an deeper understanding and uh, good justification behind a lot of the stuff that they do and what they talk about with the characters. It does not follow a typical shonen format, much like people who get into things like JoJo Bizarre Adventures. Um, the way how Baki actually handles characters is a very creative and honestly a fantastic way, considering that they don't have characters that are just one off. They were defeated one time and then they go away. Baki kind of keeps people around. So just because they lost a fight doesn't mean that they no longer are a threat. Doesn't mean that they're no longer someone who you could see them, you know, losing to someone else that might be a brand new character, that might be a brand new threat or something like that. They still hold relevancy in the Baki world, which is fantastic. Now, I also wanted to do this before God of High School came out. If you don't know what God of High School is, and you probably don't even know what Baki is, since how they're not typical mainstream anime, God of High School is an up and coming anime during the time in which I'm making this. It is a webcomic that is going to become an anime done by Crunchyroll. Now, I want to do this now because I currently read God of High School. I'm on like chapter like 215 or something like that. So I'm still catching up. It's already got like 400 or whatever. And a lot of the things that I'm taking notice of now that are kind of upsetting me with God of High School, I just started watching a new season of Baki 2, and yeah, it's just like it putting a lot of things in perspective for me. So I wanted to say this. Now, God of High School is a Mawa webcomic that's about to become an anime, and honestly, I already know that it's going to be a fantastic anime. The action and things like that on it are top notch, and considering how the story is, a lot of people are going to be jumping on the bandwagon of it. So what I wanted to do was to make something talking about it before it even got to the point where basically I'm just hating. So I don't want to come off as a hater, but this is just realistically from an observational point of someone who takes into account uh, looking at different things that for like that show action and actually have a decent good story that's worth a read or a watch, whether despite anything else. It's not too common nowadays where you can actually see a anime that honestly would be worth wasting time to read the manga of. Or if you've already read the manga, like what's the point of watching the anime when they cut out certain things of it? So that's my explanation for this podcast. But let me actually get into the more detailed reason of like what the fuck am I talking about. So after I'm currently watching the new season of Baki, um, and it's under the title of Baki 2. It's an ONA, which I believe is an original uh, net anime. So basically, it just starts from online. I'm not sure if that's what ONA means, but I'm currently looking at it. I'm enjoying it like crazy because I'm just sitting here binge watching it. I can't really stop. I'm kind of upset that I have to stop to make this because I wanted to get this off my chest before I finish watching it, and it's driving me crazy because I was planning on doing it like many episodes ago, and I just still kept watching and watching and watching, wasting time. So, uh, after looking at Baki, and then I currently am reading God of High School, I'm understanding to the fact that basically God of High School kind of has a pseudo fascination when it comes to martial arts. A lot of the things that they do, you can stem and can tell that research was done. A lot of detailed information was gathered towards the certain martial arts and the styles that they use within God of High School, but their execution of it is typically that of your regular old shonen manga or whatever, where characters who are defeated and were surpassed um, by main characters are no longer a threat. The introduction of brand new characters and new powers becomes the new aforementioned threat. So the acquisition and the understanding of martial arts kind of get thrown out the window once they start introducing powers. Now, God High School does a wonderful balance. Now, if I'm pretty sure the anime will be able to do it justice when it comes to the action scenes, and I hope that they do it fantastically and flawlessly. Hopefully, Crunchyroll put in some money on it. But God High School just fantastically was able to still keep the martial arts aspect towards the powers and when people use said powers. So even though it got to the point where they started doing these ridiculous types of action sequence and whatnot, they were still retaining the core values of the martial art moves and things like that they're supposed to use. One of the things that they do with this is that they kind of get rid of flying, which is one of the things that hindered Dragon Ball Z. As soon as they introduce flying, there's really no point in form or style when you're fighting. You just kind of you throw them bows. Now, Super tried to rectify this, and honestly, they're doing a terrible job because Toei sucks at giving up money for very good animation. They cut costs a lot. So to actually showcase really good and authentic martial arts action in something like Dragon Ball Z, which would honestly be deserving of something like that, just it wasn't gonna happen under the watchful eye of Toei. Um, you can see, like how fantastic they go into keeping true to sticking with action sequences actually being a very big selling point of the anime, and like Naruto, because Baruto does it and Naruto did it. So, but again, Naruto doesn't have flying. So, they're able to keep that in play. Uh, so, with God High School, they're fantastic at doing that. They're able to balance that effortlessly. It's honestly fantastic that they can still introduce basically godlike and mythical powers, but at the same time, people are doing traditional styles in martial arts and whatnot. And so I give credit where credit is due. Like I said, I'm not saying that I don't like God of High School in any way, shape, or form, just to clarify that. Um, but after looking at Baki, I can understand that basically it's going to become overshadowed because basically God of High School is going to become basically a mainstream lover, uh, a mainstream love affair, because people are immediately going to jump onto it because of what it is and what it does and all the characters and whatnot and how they are and how they act. Because if you read it, like it's a really good read. So it is a decent read. It actually is an amazing web comic, and it's fantastic that's getting an anime. But Baki just happens to have just far more respect for martial arts. God of High School tends to be biased a lot. Uh, they realistically, um, because of its Korean origins, the main characters do Korean stuff, and that's fine. That's totally fine. But like I said, in terms of the biasy, is that a word, biasy? In terms of it being biased, it comes across that way simply because of the fact that the main characters are the only ones who truly you see to progress in an actual positive fashion. They're constantly engaging other characters. They're constantly learning. They're constantly improving, and they might have some side characters who are equal to them in strength, or villains that are more powerful than them, or like just as strong as them. Uh, but it's always just the core three. It's just the core three. Kind of reminds you of Naruto, really. But it's always just revolves around the core three Korean characters, and that's it. Now, the respect aspect of this is that multiple characters have been introduced within Gata High School. Multiple characters have gone through the trials that they went through. They've been to the certain places that they've been through and whatnot. But they still forever showcase that only these three characters truly ever really evolve or get stronger as characters. In order for them to make it seem like, there's an actual threat um, being presented in front of them, they just introduce brand new people, and that's it. They just introduce new people. The old people just kind of get pushed off to the side. They might come back later and do a one-off thing, but That's typical in any shonen fashion, and honestly, it's nothing really to care about. There's no point in, like, I can assure you that a lot of the people who they're going to show in the beginning of God of High School, who are actually seem like known threats, will not be such a threat as time goes on. They just introduce new people. And then these new people have newer powers that makes them more of a threat. They might be in relation to a different type of martial art or whatever, and they go in, like I said, they go in with their study of these martial arts and whatnot, and it's fantastic when they do that. But again, these other characters that practice other martial arts, you never see them progress or grow or learn or anything like the main characters do. There's multiple times in which in God High School the main character will see a new technique and then just immediately copy it. So then it just becomes a factor of just, he kind of has the shotgun gun. So he doesn't have a little odd thing, but it's just that he see a technique, he can copy it, and then he can implement it just as powerful as someone who's been practicing it for years or whatever. So, but it's something that you understand. One of the characters basically does the karate that was created by a Korean man. I cannot remember his name, but he's known for like cracking a bull horns, I believe, and then he did the whole split the top of the bottle off with his hands. Um, and I know there's a movie about him, and it's actually a really good movie of him just basically going through Japan with his karate style, just wrecking a lot of people. Um, yeah, a friend of mine showed me that movie, and it's a really good movie. And and it's like there's a character that does that, and one of the things that basically made me understand the faultiness of God of High School is that basically the character who practices that karate, um, he wanted that man who invented that karate to become somewhere where he gets his power from. They call borrowed power users. And so he wanted that person to get it. Someone else got it, and then they showcased that other person who got it later. Um, when that dude shows up and he's using the Korean master as his little power base or whatever, it's called borrowed power. When he's using that as his borrowed power base, he then fights someone who has Bruce Lee as a borrowed power base. Now, rather than them actually go into the difference in structure or the complexity of the style or have it to where, you know, it's not, it wasn't a factor of both people not practicing well enough or one is more, um, one is more conditioned and into this martial art life to where he put his all in it over the other one who just is relying more on his power than he is his own self. Rather than do something like that, have it to where it's like one style, like the skills and the experience from one person over like help overcompensates a character over the other in order to help them defeat this other person because of the fact that it's like even though we both have like a human person that we're borrowing our power from, there's still martial art masters that we learn from, we grow from, we were able to learn and grow from, and then like rel- um, and respectively while we're clashing, we use the experience and skills that they have in order to do a hell of a lot more, to have more of a authentic fight that would make a hell of a lot of sense. And realistically, they didn't. It kind of just is a you just see someone that was that was Chinese who had Bruce Lee, and then a dude that was Japanese who took the karate master power, and then he just defeated him. It's kind of a little scuffle, and it's not in comparison to a lot of the other stuff that they do. It's not that big of a deal, and then the karate master just defeats Bruce Lee, and I thought that was incredibly insulting considering what all Bruce Lee has done in his path of excellence towards martial art mastery and whatnot. And since they didn't divulge on that in further development of the character who had Bruce Lee, it was just pushed to the side. And that just to me was a clear cut showcase of favoritism, um, which I didn't appreciate and didn't like. The fact that the main character does a taekwondo and it's just supposed to be superior than any and everything. And because they showcase it as being superior than any and everything, because there's nothing else that really rivals the Taekwondo. They just have people with powers who go after people who can do the Taekwondo, which is again something that it's just clear favoritism. Now, going into Baki, when it does its martial arts, there are multiple characters within Baki who basically have been defeated in the early stages of Baki, but even in the current season. And like when I say early stages of Baki, I mean from Baki the Grappler that came out back in like freaking 2006. So like in the very beginning of Baki, and like that's yeah Grappler Baki, which is the original manga. Um, the anime that's out now is based off the second series of the manga, which I believe is just called Baki or Baki Do. I think Baki Do might be the one where he fights his father. I can't remember. Or that's Baki and or something like that. But there's a lot to Baki. But the fact that they're basically characters who were introduced in the very beginning that are still relevant, still powerful, and still thrive and strive to become stronger martial artists are still showcased, to me is a hell of a lot more respectful towards the martial arts, considering the fact that they're using different types of martial arts. They have these people with these convictions that believe that fighting is this world. One of the problems with God of High School is the power element, because the power element will at some point overshadow the martial arts element. It's gonna happen because it just is gonna happen. But like I said, the fact that they're still able to balance the martial arts aspect along with those powers is fantastic. But it's still, it's still going to be more about like the powers and the explosions and all these spectacles of like them destroying stuff, blowing up stuff, and things like that. And yeah, it's cool and whatnot. But again, like from a martial arts standpoint and how they do things, it just teeters more and more towards the realm of what Dragon Ball Z became, rather than sticking to what it initially starts off with, which is like a martial arts esque type of webtoon. Now, I'm not dogging it. No way, shape, or form am I trying to diss it and whatnot. But just in the concept of staying true to staying true and actually being relevant, keeping the martial art aspect relevant, Baki holds it in the highest regard. Now, yeah, Baki does not have superpowers, but they do have over the top spectacles. There are multiple times where people just basically get hit in the face and their skulls just get crushed in, and then you see them a couple of days later and they're kind of okay. But they do showcase that these people are really, hurt, damaged, and injured, and they need some time to heal, but they're still raring to go fight because that's the world that these people live in. They're crazy. Um, they just devote their end all be all into being martial artists. So it's honestly very respectable in that respectable is that a word? It's honestly when it does that, it's just I hold it in so much admiration because of the fact that it's not something where I'm seeing the main character do a particular style and then that style is dominant over everything because the main character is someone who's just better than everyone else when it comes to fighting. That's not the case at all in Baki the Grappler. Baki, if you know it from the beginning, is actually someone who studied, researched, practiced in order to get to where he got to. He doesn't see a technique and then immediately is able to copy it. He researches his opponents. He actually looks into what they're capable of, their strengths, their weaknesses. Then when they actually do fight, he utilizes what he knows, what they know, his experience, all of that amalgamation, all of that basically comes together to help in the fight. Um, and so with that, it actually is far more true to the realm of martial arts because it isn't something that you can just I know this and I'm gonna just jump into fighting somebody and then you're perfectly capable of holding your own despite not seeing anything or like knowing any pre-information about your opponent and whatnot. Because if you're caught off guard, then you're caught off guard, and a loss is a loss. But Baki the Grappler kind of puts the spin on it in the world, whereas like these people take this shit so seriously to where it doesn't even freaking matter about being someone where they're like held in these grand spectacles all over the world or whatnot. These people will fight in a sewer if it means that they can just fight. And and it's fantastic that they do that. They implement different styles and different techniques, um, much like what God of High School does. But the fact that they have characters do it who basically aren't basically put down because of the style. They're put down because of the character. If you're overconfident, if you think that you're big and bad, like despite all the training and experience that you have, and then you overestimate your opponent or you underestimate your opponent, yeah, you underestimate your opponent, you get defeated. So they never have in Baki where someone actually looks down on style and technique because it doesn't get the job done. If you're capable of winning, then you win. There's an incident in the previous season of Baki, the first season of Baki, where Baki fought a guy who basically has poison on his hands, and it's a style where he slaps and removes the skin, and it actually integrates poison into your bloodstream. And the first time Baki fights this guy, he loses to him. But then at the end of the season, Baki fights this guy again and defeats him. And then he lets him know that his father taught him about this technique, but his father looked down on the technique because he was like, it's just slapping. And then Baki was like, it really does a lot of damage, but if you just overcome the pain that you feel from the technique, then it no longer is as big of a threat as you think it is. And it's like, yeah, I'm poisoned, but that's in the case of you trying to kill me. But it doesn't matter if I'm gonna die about it later. Right now, the fight is just the fight. And it's like, so as long as I'm still able to fight right now, and this isn't killing me instantly, then you still have a problem. Like I'm gonna still be able to get you. And and again, like that's totally cool. That's a hell of a lot of respect towards the actual martial art and the concept of what was going on and in the confines of what was going on as well. So I I appreciate that with Baki. The fact that they have just a cornucopia of characters who appear with different styles and different techniques, but it's not something where it's one sidedly just showcased that, seeing as how this is a Japanese anime and manga, only the Japanese are the greatest. It's like, no, that's not the case at all. Everyone's striving to become the greatest. And in fact, the race factor isn't even really a factor. Hell, I couldn't tell you how many people in God High School are brown, but in Baki the Grappler, considering that an original thing, they deal with just a Japanese tournament. Then afterwards, it becomes worldwide criminals. And then at one point in time, they have worldwide criminals, some from Russia, some from Germany, things like that. And it's like you got these big grown people. Hell, one of the things in the original Baki was that it ends with him fighting his brother, who's his half brother, who's I believe part American. Um, he's mixed, part American, part Japanese, and he's a huge dude who takes steroids. But like, yeah, he's had like operations done on his body to make him larger, and he takes like a bunch of steroids, and then he fought his little brother, and it was like a crazy, crazy fight, blood everywhere. There, but it's like at one point in time, that dude was considered like the best of the best, but Baki still overcame and defeated him after studying, practice, and then knowing, like figuring out what all he could do and things like that. So it it just it's very attentive towards the martial arts. It looks upon it, it understands it, it breaks it down. There's multiple times where they bring up different elements of particular martial arts in which they use, and again, it never knocks the martial art. It never makes it seem lesser than another. It's just specifically the time and place and the person that's utilizing this martial art is not is just they're not capable of winning. Now it's like like again there is over the top stuff. The fact that Baki and his dad are incredibly powerful and strong. It really you don't see them losing too often. Well, Baki in particular, you don't see him really losing too often. But again, they actually gave that element of his study, his training, and his follow through when it comes to his matches and stuff like that before he actually did them. And it had a hell of a lot more relevancy than in like out of high school, where essentially they give them like a week or something to train, in which they're kind of jumping up levels as if it's like they're gaining a new Super Saiyan power. And so it was just this immediate fix, like, hey, if you learn this, like, you'll become this much more powerful. And it's like, okay, but these people are like basically causing worldwide calamities and shaking islands and stuff when they're learning to do stuff. And again, it's the power element added to it, but it's just that they do so much that kind of takes away from the martial arts aspect of it to focus far too much on the power aspect. One of the things is that they have people wear these bands on God High School that showcase your power levels, your health and stuff like that, and they have like points to let people know like how many health points you got, because they're like nanomachines in their bodies letting them know, and it's like how much health points you got, how much battle power you have, and like how much energy you're able to use. And honestly, the concept itself is incredibly ridiculous. Once it was implemented, and then someone stated that relying on that is stupid because it doesn't really tell you anything, because people just throughout fights awaken a new power or whatnot. There's multiple people who can regenerate, which becomes increasingly annoying to me. And there's never really anyone who basically gets defeated and then comes back by learning from anything. It's just really, again, those one-off fights shown in style. This is the bad guy. I beat the bad guy. That's it for that bad guy. Oh, and 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 again, I don't really care for that because I've seen it so many goddamn times. So it's like, just because it's done in God High School doesn't change anything, but I can see, I know for a fact that a lot of people are gonna jump onto it and just be like, "Oh my God, this is so great," and that's whatever, that's cool. But in the realm of how martial arts is incorporated, or how people who strive to be martial artists are, and the practice and dedication that comes to people who hone that craft of fighting, Baki does that a hell of a lot more respectably. There's so many people on Baki who get their asses kicked and then come back for more. And then just because they got their asses kicked once doesn't mean that they're just going to outright lose the second time. And then they might fight someone and lose against them. And then someone else comes and fights them that's a brand new person while they're injured. And then they'll be able to fight and defeat that other person. So, and again, and then like that all gets chalked up to experience, like style, like the utilization of said style, how they incorporate who they're like how they fight towards who they are fighting. So much knowledge of different styles and techniques. So when it all comes together, this giant ball of whoever this person is, and it's like when you do see them fight, it's not an immediate, oh, they're going to lose. It's a, I need to see how this turns out because I don't know how this is going to turn out. Multiple cases where someone might fight 3 or 4 people in a row, just decimating everybody. And then they fight one other person who you don't figure would win, and then they win. And then they have incidents where basically they break down to people how true martial arts is. There is no rules. There are no, it doesn't matter. There's no ref or anything like that. And it's like nut shots are fair. Biting is fair. Scratching their eyes out is fair. As a fighter, you have to be prepared for anything and everything. Hell, even while watching the new Baki, there's a guy who was Muhammad Ali's, Muhammad Allah. Muhammad Ali. Is it Ali? How do they say it? Muhammad, they said Ali. Yeah, Muhammad Ali Jr. Because they can't say Muhammad Ali. And like Jr. basically started fighting these people. He defeated them in succession, one after one. And then he fought Baki's brother. He lost to Baki's brother, was injured, and then the other guys came back for a rematch. And I was like, God, this is what I love about Baki. And these are characters that they showcased and had in the beginning of Baki. So for the most part of this season, they haven't even shown these characters that much. Or they haven't even really shown these characters in the beginning of this, because they were dealing with a whole nother arc thing that was going on. So when it brought them back and they were doing their own respective styles and their techniques and everything, going up against um, Junior, he realistically didn't get that, you know, once they understood how he fought, then they were able to come back at him and then fight. And then even while he was injured from other people fighting him, the other ones still came after him ready to go to fight. Like one guy said, don't tell me that you think just because of someone's like you look down on someone who challenges an injured man. And he's like, no, I want to fight you. I'm ready to fight you. And he was like, as a human being, to protect yourself, you should be ready to fight at all times. You know, and it's like you never know when something might happen to you. You might get sick. You get in an accident. It doesn't matter. But as someone basically, essentially saying like as someone who wants to be in that world of a fighter, you know, you need to understand that you got to be ready to go at all times. He was like, if you want to make sure I don't come back after you, you need to defeat me to the point where I go, I never want to fight you again. I You have to make it to where I believe like I can never defeat you no matter what shape you're in, so I never have to come challenge you again. And that type of thinking, especially with the brutal type of martial arts that they do in Baki, I thought was fantastic. I think it's phenomenal that they have that. And then to actually show admiration towards Muhammad Ali's boxing style. Different characters in Chinese Kempo and like the different styles of the Chinese Kempo. So they didn't just bring in Chinese Kempo and just said that as if that's the only thing that exists when it comes to martial arts in China. It was like there's different styles, different functions, different way that um, they're structured and how they fight and what they go about in their training and whatnot. And in Baki the Grappler, they actually talked about the shit. While in again God of High School is just a dude who used Bruce Lee as a power base. So you see why I would be upset. But again, it's not it's not that I consider God of High School a bad yeah. Well, it's not that I consider God of High School a bad uh, webcomic or anything like that. But as far as it goes as just showing respect towards martial arts as a whole, it does a shitty job. It really does. It does its fair share of bringing in styles, talking about styles and whatnot, but only to the styles that you can clearly see that the author prefers, rather than all of the styles that they're introducing and talking about. Because one of the main bases behind a lot of teachings in martial arts is that there is no one true great martial art. There's It's just the person behind the martial art, and it's like there's never one martial art that you can learn that trumps all others. Because if that was the case, then why isn't like that would be the only one people would practice? But that's not the case. So that's why people don't just practice that one thing. It's all about the person and the character and how they go about building up their style. And to me, the beauty of Baki the Grappler is that they actually implement that, while in God of High School, they do not. And it clearly shows if you are looking at it and paying attention to it. As like it would be fantastic and phenomenal if they were to just showcase other styles and techniques that doesn't belong to villains or one-off characters that just happen to get a power boost and then start fighting. But they actually have people who, from once upon a time ago in the beginning, come back and actually showcase that no, I'm still strong. I'm still a dog in this fight. One of the incidents in God of High School is when they get teleported to another world. If you don't read it and you want to watch it, trust me, all the shit that I'm about to talk about is not even going to be in the anime. So honestly, it's not even a spoiler. You just gotta wait. Like really, it's just gonna be a waiting thing. But by that time, I'm pretty sure you'll forget about this. But they go to another world, and then they have other characters go with them to the other world. But the only characters that really do anything are the main three. While as the other characters that were there don't really get into much of a fighting thing. They kind of fight grunts, but they don't have them progress or get stronger or anything like that. They just introduce and say they're going to. And then that's it. That's all that that amounts to. It's just that they went as well. Did they do anything? Did they accomplish something? Did anything happen because they were there? Nothing of importance. Really just kind of pseudo, they're still here to help type bullshit. In a typical shonen fashion. So, and much like with what is it, Fairy Tale, like who are the main strong people in Fairy Tale, and every other person a part of that guild could suck bricks. Because as soon as those main people left, then the guild just became shit. And that's actually something that happened in Fairy Tale. It was one of the last things that I know about Fairy Tale because I stopped reading it because this Fairy Tale was shit. Fight me. Fairy Tail is a terrible anime. It's a terrible manga. This shit looked like One Piece. The dude who made Rave Master made it, and Rave Master is really good. So don't know how that happened. And then Fairy Tail just refuses to die. So whatever. um, it's just I just look at Baki, and I'm actually when I'm watching the fights and everything, I'm actually I'm actually very happy. They implement and do and talk about stuff that realistically martial arts do utilize. While I was in Gata High School, a lot of the shit that they do be kind of come rinse and repeat after a while. There's a lot of incidents where they fight characters who have regeneration abilities. There are a lot of incidents where they fight characters who basically their power is just that they keep coming back with a more advanced power. Like they just basically bump up to Super Saiyan and then Super Saiyan 2 in the midst of the fight. And then their main characters will do the exact same thing, and then that's how they win. And then later they will showcase that other people will talk down to them as if they weren't just the ones who were the strongest, because that's just how they work. While as in the world of Baki the Grappler, everyone like it just goes about like the guy who fought the strongest character in Baki the Grappler still is fighting other people in Baki the Grappler. You see what I'm saying? Like the main person that is of the biggest threat isn't someone that you look at and is just considered evil by any means or anything like that. It's just that he was the fighter that you needed to defeat, and then you defeated him. That's it. But it's like just because you defeated him that one time doesn't mean that he might not come back for more. You don't know what's gonna take place. So that only heightens the aspect of the main character still training, still getting stronger, still wanting to do stuff because of that threat. And it's like, yeah, I put you down. You now know you lost to me. And they have multiple times where characters be like, oh yeah, I lost to you. You beat me, but I still want to fight. And again, that's just this fucking genius, because they don't have that in God High School. They just had, just like any other shonen, you lost to me. Now we're friends. It's over with. Or if you were the main bad guy, you were defeated, and then you're just gone now. And it's like if you weren't, or you were just a side off little character in the way, you were defeated, and that's all there is to you. And it's just, eh, eh. Because again, like, especially considering that God High School implements a hell of a lot more diversity in different places that can be showcased within God High School. So I would have loved to seen far more, uh, a lot more detailed in breaking down, main characters, like different characters' styles, or the main character seeing different styles, or having these styles basically become a threat to other characters. But they don't do that. They don't do that at all. And like I said, in Baki the Grappler, one of the main things with him is that he really, in the beginning of Baki, when it came back, he lost to someone, and it was like he lost. But it's like if you followed or know about the story of Baki, up until that point, I don't believe he was defeated, where he never really been beaten for a while. So that loss was like a serious, like that was a serious thing. But it didn't have him just be in this rut where he was just, oh my god, I lost. It was, no, you lost, and get back on that horse. You got to keep riding. And I love and appreciate Baki for that. They implement a lot of things that basically are either kind of superstitions in the world of martial arts. One of them being like a true martial artist would kind of forego the need of like sex or being dependent on women or anything like that. And that is a superstition. So there's a lot of things where it's like with them, it's like to truly train, forget about being with women or things like that. And then he had his dad just come up to him and go like, you do you do whatever you want to get your own strength. If you believe that that's something that'll help you, then by all means believe it. But if not, you do what you want to. And it's like you're so busy sitting here focusing on that, because at the time Baki had a girl that he liked. He was like, you're so focused on that, and you believe that if you indulge in your carnal pleasure, that you'll become weaker. He was like, for what? And then he was like, do it again. He said, do it more than one time. Do it as many times as you want. It doesn't matter, and having a moment like that or something like that being said to a character, because it didn't devalue how the other guy perceived his own train of thought. It's just that there was a different train of thought, which is another thing that happens in Baki. It become different concepts of being, as well as how they go about their practice in their different techniques or what they strive to become strong. So then it becomes not a clash of techniques or styles and experience, but more so a clash of character. So it was like whose ideals are better. You know, it was like my ideal is to fight this way. Your ideal is to fight this way. And because of that, we now know this type of style, and now we're about to fight. So that, like, stuff like that, it far more interesting, a hell of a lot deeper, and a hell of a lot more complex than a lot of the stuff that happened in God of High School. God of High School's story is very bland and blasé. In fact, the beginning of it is honestly, to me, the lowest points of God of High School, which is, to me, I consider that a good thing, but it's just the beginning and the introduction of the characters and the reason that they're so invested in everything that's going on as God of High School progresses. To me, is kind of just a meh, because it's just a nah, and then what it grows to become, it's like, wait, why are you still doing this? You know, and just it's just wait, you got here from what? And it's like, what made you want to, like, why are you still like participating in this if your world is this and they promised you this and now you don't got it? So why are you still participating? And then it just kind of boiled down to friendship. So like I said, it's going to be a number one shonen love right there. Like it's like people are gonna lose their freaking mind. And you're like, but Demon Slayer is just so. Oh, but God of High School, my mistress. You seriously like people like a lot of people might joke about it, but I already know like God High School is going to be the hype anime as soon as it comes out. Look how many people are jumping on Tower of God, and Tower of God isn't even at the point where it's just amazing yet. It's at the point in Tower of God where it's interesting and it's intriguing as hell, but it's nowhere near when it's amazing, and I can't wait for that. But just I can already tell like God of High School is just going to be that thing that just makes people lose their freaking mind. So that's, and again, I need to reiterate, if you stuck with me this long, I am in no way, shape, or form dogging God of High School. I like God of High School. I still read it now. Um, I'm very much invested and interested in what they're doing. I can't wait to see the anime. I think it's going to be fantastic. But just while watching the new Baki, um, I look at it and it's like, man, I'm far more interested in watching this just as well as I was when it first came out, and I'm glad that this just cut the dog's head off and just pushed out all the episodes, while instead of just having me wait week after week after week like last time. Uh, Thanks Netflix, but I'm happy that it's all out, but it's like I can put down God of High School. I'm okay with not being completely caught up to God of High School. I when God of High School originally came out, I was like caught up with it. I was reading it successfully, and then eventually I got bored with it. It wasn't something I cared to read week after week after week anymore. I fell off of it because it was just I understood how it played out and how it functioned and how it was structured, and I was like, eh. But with Baki, I'm invested in everything that's going on. I think it's fantastic that they have so much admiration and love for basically Muhammad Ali and his boxing style, or a dude um, that basically is just a full blown steroid freak who just really wants to defeat his father but can't beat his little brother. But it's not something that's a driving character thing with him that they showcase. But that's the hurdle that he has to overcome right now. But it's not something that you see as like he's just constantly foreboding over that. Like, oh, I just can't beat my little brother. Like, nah, it shows this dude every time they show him. He's like in a diner somewhere eating a bunch of food, and I just love that aspect of Baki the Grappler. Like, there's a reason it's been running for so goddamn long. So I I respect the hell out of it, because it respects the hell out of martial arts. Period. It and it's like it doesn't really have a favorite, especially considering that the main characters are people who kind of freeform. Like they utilize whatever they utilize to win. So they're just an amalgamation of different styles, and I find that fantastic because why wouldn't you? Especially when the core of your series revolves around just do whatever it takes to win. When again, like with God of High School, I don't even know if I finished that train of thought. They have the element of like being able to see your health or your power level and things like that. And then they mention that it's not important, but in God High School they keep using it, and it is so stupid. I hate that they do that, and it's like to see if someone is actually defeated, they'll have their health go to zero. But in all normal context, if you just pass out, then you just pass the fuck out. And it's like, yeah, I win. I win this fight. He's out. He's incapable of fighting anymore. That's all the proof you need. You don't need something that tells you it's zero. And then they'll have like a battle power scale, and then that'll basically just jump up whenever a character just gains more energy or kind of, reach a Super Saiyan thing or whatever. And you have characters who look at it and talk about it for that little, inquisitive exposition moment. His battle power is 13? Oh my god. And I was like, it's not 6, it's 13. And it's just that it doesn't matter. And it's just in the showcase of fighting and martial arts, and when skill is involved, and especially because they do it multiple times, it never really matters. But it's annoying that it's a factor that they constantly bring up. Do you see what I'm saying? How that's stupid? Well, in Baki the Grappler, motherfuckers just fight. They just fight. They might talk about the style and talk about like what they're doing, but they just fight, and the action is fantastic. So that's just something that I hope that clarified the title of this podcast for you. So now you can understand and know why I say that. So by all means, check out the Baki the Grappler series. It has a lot. It really does have a lot. You could read the manga. The I would say personally, I actually like the way how the anime goes about showcasing the beginning of Baki. So look up Baki the Grappler, watch that. Like the beginning of Baki the Grappler, to me is a hell of a lot better than how the manga actually starts off Baki the Grappler. So my personal opinion, I would always say, check out the anime first. But again, here's the harsh reality because, there's stuff in the anime that they cut out that's actually in the manga. So you got to deal with that. But, you want to see what the original creator wanted. Yeah, just read the manga. But just read the manga up until you get to Baki, and then just watch Baki. Because the new Baki follows the manga perfectly, so there's nothing wrong with it. So it's fantastic. Again, man, I really had to do this because I didn't want to do this all after the fact. And then people are like, oh, he just hating on God of High School. It's the shit. And it's like, nah, I want to at least admit and showcase that I know what the fuck I'm talking about before, a bunch of motherfuckers come out with a haterade. And they're like, nah. I legit understand and respect and watch both of these things. And it's just that I truly, truly, truly love the respect that Baki has towards all martial arts, rather than having its moments of favoritism, and then just kind of a shonen-esque style of writing. It really is just, because with Baki, there is no end goal or anything like that. There's no main bad guy that you're trying to defeat or anything like that. And it's like, these people are just fighting to be fighting. But with Baki, what he wants to do is become strong enough to defeat his dad. And that's it. But it doesn't mean that he just doesn't want to fight. And considering the fact that Baki, there's a manga after Baki fights his dad, and then they made a new manga, which is about what Baki's doing after he defeated his dad, where he's fighting other people, So it's like, yeah, so even still, there's still more, because their world is just fighting. And I love it. I really do love it. Okay. I've been talking long enough, and I'm starting to get hungry. I'll probably got more stuff to say, and as soon as I think of it, I will let you guys know. If you have been waiting to listen to my illustrious voice. Yeah, I've been on break for the longest, and honestly, I wasn't gonna start back until like Monday. So I've been off for like damn near 2 to 3 weeks, just enjoying myself, But then crazy shit started happening in the world, so just been yeah, really just been relaxing. Um, but I'm gonna get back into it. So definitely check back every for Ja. We'll definitely try to keep up with producing a podcast every Friday, and then just check in between that. We'll definitely have stuff, but from now on, every Friday, you can expect a podcast from your good pal Daniel the Flame. Listen to all my stuff that I want to talk about, and that'll just be fine. That'll just be just quite swell. I wish everyone the best. I hope everyone's out there being safe and taking care of themselves, and I will speak to you all next time. What am I fucking? I'm not a goddamn radio host. Jesus Christ. Yeah, this has been Fun with Flame. My name is Daniel the Flame, and as always, people, I hope you had fun. Also, be sure to check out the original home of the Fun with Flame podcast over at Anchor.fm. I upload there first and far more frequently than I do YouTube. And you should definitely go there to listen to some of my podcasts that are just too hot for YouTube to handle. So check out Anchor.fm for more Fun with Flame content. Be sure to subscribe and click any of the links in the description to see all of the other things that I am associated with, if you just want a little bit more of that Daniel the Flame in your life.